How's everybody doing? I'm back with another video, once again exposing the lies and deception of the Aboriginal community. This topic, I want to deal with something that I've been hearing on the several channels of Aboriginal thinkers and believers. Is this whole concept of African Americans do not look like Africans. And I just can't believe it. But I understand it truly, because in this country, we've been fed so much negativity about Africa that many African Americans don't want to be associated with Africa or its people. And I believe that this is the root cause for this belief that so many African Americans have in reference to Africa. So this purpose of this video is to try to demonstrate that we in fact do look alike. And this whole notion that we don't is I believe is a mentally convenient way of denying the truth. And so I'm going to bring up a couple of people that I'm sure we heard of. Now, this brother right here, I'm sure everyone knows who he is. As you can see, he played in 12 Years a Slave, and I don't want to butcher his name, so I'm not. People can read his name. I'm not good with reading Nigerian names, so I'm not going to butcher his name. But he's a Nigerian actor, and but if you look at him, you might have thought that he was African American. You know, he speaks the way Americans speak. You know, but if you listen to him, I think he's an English actor. You know, so here's his other brother right here. I'm not going to pronounce his last name, but he played in the movie Selma. He played Dr. King, an African American. And he also played in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And many people remember that movie. Well-known actor. Many people probably thought that he was African American, but he isn't. Okay, so let me see if I could pull this down so we could get a better point of it. Okay, so the title of this video, let me see if I can zoom it down just a little bit, maybe 50. Okay, that's probably better. Okay. All right. So here we go. The top 10 most beautiful Ghanaian actresses. Now, if you look at these sisters right here, keep in mind, these are African women. But you could see these women in the clubs or any formal engagement you go in America. They look no different. There is no way that you would be able to tell that they are African. You would have thought that they were African American. So let me just pull this lady up. This is a CNN contributor, political commentator. Her name is Simone Sanders. She's an African American. But if you didn't know her, based on stereotypical imagery, you might have thought she was African. But she's clearly not African, based on her name. She's African American. Now, her name is Isha Sese. You may have seen her if you watch CNN International. Her parents, I don't think she was born in Sierra Leone, but her parents were. So that makes her African. But look at her features, her phenotypes, her nose. Doesn't look like a typical African nose. But yet, she is West African. You might find a nose like that in East Africa, Northern East Africa. But not many West Africans have noses like that. But yet, she's West African. You know. So Now, I'm going to go right here. Let me see if I can pull this up. Okay. Now, we all know who this is, Bernie Mac, right? Now, I'm going to do a test for you guys. Okay? Now, we know who this is. Idris Elba. Who looks more African? Who looks more African? Come on. Idris Elba is African. His parents are both African. I think his mother is from Ghana and the father I think is Sierra Leone. I'm not sure, but they're both African. So that makes him African. So many of you might have said that if you didn't know these brothers, many of you may have said that Bernie Mac looks more African. What about Don Cheeto? Look at the wide nose. Typical African features, but he's African American. Right? Bernie Mac, African features. Idris Elba, African, but you may have thought he was African American. You see what I'm trying to do? There really is no difference in the way that African Americans and Africans look. But if you fall into this stereotypical imagery, that's where you mess yourself up. Okay? So, as I play this video, I'm going to read something. And this is a video of black women who happen to be African women. And what we know about African women, they are very curvy. And there's a scientific reason for that. And the reason is called steatopagia. Steatopagia, that's how you pronounce it. Steatopagia. And that is a state of having substantial levels of tissue on the buttocks and thighs. This build is not confined to the gluteal regions, but extends to the outside and front of the thighs and tapers to the knee, producing a curvaceous figure. The term, okay, let me read from this point. The history is a genetic characteristic found in women of sub-Saharan Africa origin, most notably, but not solely, among the Caucasian of Southern Africa and the Pygmies of Central Africa. It has also been observed among the Andamanese people, such as the Angay tribe in the Andaman Islands of the Indian Ocean, and most population of Homo sapiens. Females are more likely than their male counterparts to accumulate this fat in the buttocks region. The genetic characteristic is prevalent among women, but also occurs to a lesser degree in men. Steatopagia would seem to have been a characteristic of a population which once extended from the Gulf of Aden to the Cape of Good Hope, from which people of the Caucasian and Pygmies may be remnants. Among the Caucasian, it begins in infancy and is fully developed by the time of the first pregnancy. While the Caucasian affords the most noticeable example of this development, it is by no means rare in other parts of Africa. Okay, so if you not the reason why I put these women up, because I wanted you to see how beautiful they are, and that there are African women. These are African women, and if you didn't know they were African women, you may have thought that they were African American women, because you see women like this at the club all day long. These are African women who look like African American women. There is no doubt. You can see it for yourself. These women are you, and I'm talking to the women. These women are you, and you are these women. Don't get it twisted. You do look like African women, and African women look like you.